Hello, this is Aaron DeBruin, Vinyl Freak 89 here for you once again on this Monday morning. Well, still morning. Not for much longer though. By the time you guys are seeing this, it'll probably be afternoon. And I want to highlight here, I was planning on doing a video update this evening, but I want to highlight here the inconsistencies in the GFS and the fact that, and the NAM, and all these models, and the fact that 3 hours out they cannot pick up on an error with the current system, and I do not understand why this is happening. Of course it's 3 hours, of course it's going to be a minor error, but it's still there, and it's very key to the overall evolution of this system. So let's take a look at what we're seeing now. I'm going to compare this to both the 12Z and the GFS and the 12Z NAM forecast, valid 3 hours from now at 15Z. The map you're looking at is also valid 15Z. I don't understand why this happens. You can see a little bit of energy laying back here. Here's the low starting to close off. A nice PVA tail extending down into the trough overall. And this has been very key because this connection, this fact that we continue to see this tail, means that the northern branch feature sitting up here and the southern branch feature sitting down here still want to try to stay phased, and you can clearly see there is a pure negative tilt to this trough. There is no pure positive tilt to this trough. There's no negative tilt whatsoever. Here's the initial piece of jet energy out in front, which was again the disturbance that we had sitting off Baja that basically took a track something like this, and I will say the models did do a good job on picking up on that situation. Now, remember, we're seeing a trough that's carved in here like this. You have a positively tilted trough throughout, right? Now let's take a look and see first what the NAM was saying just 3 hours ago at the 12Z forecast. Look at this. You have a neutrally tilted trough in here, positively tilted, and it's got the low closed off too far, back. It's got the energy back here. It has a weak PVA tail. PVA is positive vorticity invection, and it totally misses the stronger PVA echoes that are sitting right in here. This is a 3-hour error, folks. It really amazes me. Now let's take a look at the GFS. Same or similar scenario. You have, okay, it did a little bit better job in identifying the trough sitting in here, which is amazing given that it's a global model, not a mesoscale model. Still, you can see, okay, it did a little bit better job with the positive tilt, but still missing out on this PVA tail. It did not correctly identify that these troughs are still phased, they're still connected, there is still vorticity that's linking the two pieces of jet energy together. And what do you end up with? You end up with the darn thing that's going to try to close off earlier and separate from this flow, this initial trough sitting up here earlier. That's very key to the eventual track of this system. Now, I will say the error that I identified in the GFS last night has gone ahead and corrected itself, at least partially this morning, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. I want to review with you last night's GFS. First off, we're going to take a look at the 0Z, and remember I was saying that this looked wrong in here. It looked like that with this thing with these 3 separate pieces of energy like this, I didn't think that that configuration made much sense. And you can see there's a piece split here, it's a piece split here, here's the main thing, and it wants to go somewhere. It's getting tugged. It's two pieces of vorticity are getting tugged in 2 directions between the 2 systems. Our one that's leaving and the new one that's coming in. And so I said that probably you'd see a trough that would get carved out more like this, with most of this energy coming in here and the remaining part getting left behind and coinciding with the new piece of Pacific energy diving into the main base of the trough. You can see overall, based on this map, what you can glean from it is a very zonal flow. Once you get south of about 45 north, everything's zonal. There's not a real big trough carved out in either situation, and there's no distinct height rises or height falls anywhere on this map in the general portion of the country. Now, let's take a look at what this morning's 12Z GFS shows. Much different solution. Remember I mentioned the fact that we'd see height rises in here? Look at this. Now you're starting to see the gradual height rise. Again, that trough configuration is much deeper. You can see that this piece of energy, what basically happened, a piece of this that was sitting in here split, went to this trough, another piece split, and it's coming back. And you see that the whole thing's more phased in. What do we get overall? Still a zonal flow, but there's some indication that you might want to start to create a ridge in between these two. What's that do? It sets up a temporary block that allows this to bomb out into a 50-50 low, and what happens is these pieces slow down, gives time for this next piece of energy to dump in, and we end up with a different solution. So let's look at so this is 48 hours out, this is valid 12Z Wednesday, 60 hours based on the 0Z map. Let's take a look at what the evolution of this is going to bring to us. So again, looking at last night's 0Z run, remember we had a piece of energy up here, and actually two pieces. Here's the trough, it's coming out in front, it's rushing out ahead. Here's what's trying to become a 50-50 low, very little ridging in between the two, and you have an overall situation where you can have a very progressive trough that moves through, and what happens, you get some storm, weak storm that goes up here, a little bit of a secondary in this region, but the main thing just forms off the coast and goes up. You don't get a really organized system. It's very progressive and disorganized in nature. So look, see, you have, look, this is a positive tilted trough already trying to go negative for what there is, but there's no coincidement of the energy, or else you'd get the big cutoff low sitting in here like we had seen in some earlier GFS runs. Now let's look and see what the 12Z today is doing at the same time. Again, this is valid Thursday at 12Z. So this is the 72-hour forecast, and this is the 84-hour forecast. I'm sorry, this is the 72-hour forecast that you're seeing now, and it was the 84-hour forecast from the 0Z. Look at this. You have more energy out in front here. Here comes this piece of energy diving down in the trough. Why? Remember, we'll go back here. On the old run, on the 0Z run, this piece of energy sitting right in here was all the way up here in in north of Western Canada. This is amazing. Really, look at the difference. Energy up here in 0Z. Energy down here in 12Z. Look at that huge difference. What does that do? That's going to allow this to dive more into the trough. You have a little piece of energy running out front. It's okay, that tends to happen when you get a front runner like this, but look, an overall much more positive tilt to this trough, and so things can sort of spiral inward once we get down into closer to the actual event. And let's go ahead and look now. We showed you 120 last night. We're going to back up and show you 108 this morning. It's going to see if it's in yet. Yeah, we do have it. It wasn't up at the time I loaded these maps. But look at what we have now. Remember, we were seeing, I'll show you the 0Z map in a second. But look, positively tilted trough, swinging around, wants to maybe try to cut off a low in here, and so what do you get? You get a low that's much closer to the coast and much more organized. This is valid Friday night at 0Z. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the 0Z image had for the same time. The 120-hour image. Again, remember we saw the big broad trough. I'll show that to you. Yeah, look at the difference between this big broad trough, disorganized energy, a piece out here, a piece out front, compared to that. Much more organized trough, sharper. Yes, it's still broad. Yes, there's still energy hanging out in front, but it's definitely a trend in the right direction if we want to see a big East Coast snowstorm, which I'm sure a lot of you do. Alright, folks, that's my rant for today. It's just aggravating to see these sorts of discrepancies in the model that are based on such simple errors as not being able to sample the data properly, as we saw from the fact that the model cannot get down a simple difference from a 3-hour window. Neither of the models, neither the GFS or the NAM, interpreted the situation that's going on at 15Z properly. So that's my rant for today, I suppose. You folks go ahead and have a great afternoon, and I'll see you late this evening for the next update. This is Aaron DeBruin for Eastern U.S. Weather, Vinyl Freak 89. Have a good day, folks.